In this episode, guys, I want to talk about one of my favorite childish board games ever. HeroQuest. Let's get into it. This is your first visit to the Nerd Hangout and you like game reviews and talk about board games and stuff like this, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Now let's go, sit down and talk about HeroQuest.
Now before I knew D&D in the Faroe Islands, all my best friends' older brother had a game. It was a secret game. It was not allowed to play. There were skeletons, zombies, monsters. I remember 7-year-old me sneaking into their room to see this game. And this game was a horror game to us, and it was called HeroQuest.
HeroQuest. Deep inside another dimension, face battling barbarians and evil magic on a quest for adventure in a maze of monsters. This is HeroQuest, the fantasy adventure game where winning means mastering the arts of combat.
I'll use my broadsword.
And magic.
Fire of Wrath.
Once you get into it, you'll never be the same. HeroQuest. Now with 2 new adventure packs, the legend grows.
When I was a kid, I remember sneaking into my best friend's brother's room to get a sneak peek at this game they called HeroQuest. A game with monsters, spells, wizards, skeletons, and all these kind of horror things. And I was only about 7-8 years old. This thing was amazing. Okay guys, now HeroQuest, sometimes written as Hero Space Quest, is an adventure board game created by Milton Bradley in conjunction with British company Games Workshop. The game was loosely based around the archetypes of fantasy role-playing games. The game itself was actually a game system allowing the game master called Morcar and Sargon in some places to create dungeons of their own design using provided game board, tiles, furnishing, and figures. And I loved it. But this was all before D&D for us in the Faroe Islands. This game, HeroQuest, was our introduction to a cool fantasy board game. Before this, the only thing I had was Guess Who, Stratego, Ludo, Risk, which is cool games.
But that is a game for men.
The game manual describes Morcar/Sargon as the former apprentice of Mentor, and the parchment text is read aloud from Mentor's perspective. Now HeroQuest compared to Dungeons & Dragons is a lot more simple. You don't have to create a character, you don't have to roll stats, you don't have to write a backstory. All the characters or the heroes are already pre-made in the game. Now the heroes are agents of the wizard known only as the Mentor, Sargon's former master and keeper of a book called Lore Tomb, which contains all the world's knowledge. The barbarian and dwarf allow a more combat-oriented game, while the wizard and elf can cast spells. The artwork and miniature of each character are standardized, but the equipment stats vary somewhat from this basic portrait. Starting with the barbarian figure is depicted as being tall and muscular, brandishing a broadsword. He's the strongest character in combat, benefiting from excellent attack and health, but lacks any magical abilities, and is fairly weak against magical attacks. His starting weapon is a broadsword. Then we come to the dwarf. The dwarf figure is short, stocky, and well armored, carrying a battle axe. He is very good in health, but lacks the attack strength of the barbarian and the magical powers of the elven wizards. However, the dwarf can boast the unique ability of being able to disarm traps without the aid of a toolkit. Then we come to the elf. The elf figurine is tall and slender, armed with a short one-handed sword. He is equal in attack strength to the dwarf, but is less physically robust. He is able to use one type of spell, element, air, earth, fire or water magic, and can resist magical attacks more efficiently. His starting weapon is a short sword. Then we come to the mighty wizard. The wizard figurine wears a full-length cloak and carries a staff. In combat he is the weakest in attack and health, and is unable to use most weapons and armor, but compensates for this by being able to use 3 types of spell elements, for a total of 9 spells. His greater mind allows him to be the hero most resistant to the effects of magic. His starting weapon is a dagger. Now, Game Workshop worked with Milton Bradley to produce HeroQuest in 1989, an adventure game where the players cooperate against a single adversary, the Game Master, the GM. HeroQuest was created by Stephen Baker, who worked for the UK division of Milton Bradley's MB. The game was released in Britain, Europe and Australia around 1989. It was released in America and Canada in 1990 in a slightly different version.
HeroQuest. Deep inside another dimension, face battling barbarians and evil magic on a quest for adventure in a maze of monsters. This is HeroQuest, the fantasy adventure game where winning means mastering the arts of combat.
I'll use my broadsword
And magic.
Fire of wrath.
Discover traps and enemies. Uncover secret doors. Once you get into it, you'll never be the same. HeroQuest.
The game consists of a board and a number of individual miniatures and items. The protagonists were 4 heroes who faced a selection of monsters, orcs, goblins, Fimir, chaos warriors, and a chaos warlock witchlord, which represented many of the named characters for the various quests, a gargoyle and a number of undead, skeletons, zombies, and mummies. I love just to look at the cover, seeing the barbarian fighting with the zombies, the undead skeletons, the orcs, the dwarf. I think it looks amazing throwing the magic. I mean, just looking at this game made me want to play. You can also see in the background what the game entailed. You have your player book, your rules, you have your cards with items, treasures, your spells, and you have your dwarf, your barbarian, and actually a lot of these elements in these toys, also a lot of this furniture which is included in the game, I still use for my Dungeons & Dragons game. The doors, the cabinets, the stairs, even the monsters and the heroes, why not? Torture rooms, sarcophagus. I mean, all these things that was already included in the game was so fun to set up. Now, I know that the entire game only goes around in this one aisle, which you change the room all the time, comparing on what kind of game you're playing. I mean, you have your classic board here, or tiles, with the HeroQuest logo on it, and the rooms. I have actually used this as well for my Dungeons & Dragons game, where they were in a dungeon, because you can change it around in so many ways and shapes and forms. It has this cool DM screen. Now, of course, this is a lot smaller than my Nordic D&D, the Ariana Saga screen, which features Grimnod, the God of Death, on it. Now, you can see the size ratio is a lot different. Mine is actually too big, but this is all we had at that time. And you have also on the back page how the tiles are furniture looks in the book, and all the basic information that you need is at the end. Now you have your book, you have your spilleregler. This book is actually printed in Danish. And here you have your adventures. Now, the cool thing about this, that it was already all written down. It's not so much to read compared to Dungeons & Dragons, where you can see all my books over here.
It's a bit different, right?
So you have your basic, what you read for your characters in the beginning, and your map. You have A spot, B, C, what, and then you can read what is happening in this area. And another cool aspect about this game was actually that they had some maps in the ending, don't think it's this book, it must be a different one, where the pages were blank. So you could actually take a copy of this page here and you can make your own dungeon with just writing them down. We have your player sheets, where you just read your name, what figure you have, your intelligence, your power, and that's it actually. Your health DC, not very complicated. These are the dice that you roll with skulls and shields and stuff like that on it. And this is actually your characters. If you take the elf, is it called in Danish? It says here what kind of attack you do. It says here how much intelligence you have and how much power you have. And it says that you are an elf, you're a master of magic and swinging a sword. Use both abilities with caution and you will succeed. And HeroQuest is a total dungeon crawl. Many expansions for the game were published, starting with Killer's Keep, released in Europe and Australia in 1989, and the United States and Canada in 1991. Killer's Keep added new quests, new items and artifacts and a further batch of monsters figures. More orcs, goblins, and Femir. Released shortly in the same year was Return of the Witch Lord, which extended the undead with more skeletons, mummies, and zombies. The publication of expansion sets were then split between the European and Australian markets and the North American market. In 1992, the United States and Canada saw the release of two sets of their own. The Frozen Horror with a snow and icy theme featured a long female barbarian, mercenaries, ice gremlins, polar werebears, and a pair of yetis, as well as the Frozen Horror of the title. While the Mage of the Mirror had an elven-themed female elf against the evil elven archmage, elf warriors and archers, giant wolves, and ogres. A HeroQuest adventure design kit was released in Europe in 1990, containing items to help HeroQuest players design their own quests, and an adventures design booklet was published with 4 sheets of adhesive labels and with 80-page pad of new designs and larger character sheets. Yeah, all these expansion sets. And I remember one of my friends' brother had some of the expansion maps or rules, but I remember only 2 of them, and apparently it did evolve a lot more after that to different modules, but we never saw that. There was also a blank quest map printed in the middle of the original Game Quest booklet for creative players to make their own adventures, and I loved this. This was a very nice detail in the original game. HeroQuest Advanced Quest Edition, also known by the German version name HeroQuest Master Edition, was released later with 12 added miniatures, blackguards, with 4 kinds of detachable weapons, and a new 13-part adventure, The Dark Company, in addition to the original content of the basic HeroQuest box. 3 HeroQuest novels were published: The Fellowship of the Four, The Screaming Spectre, and The Tyrant Tomb of the HeroQuest computer game adaptation was released in 1991. I was actually really excited to read about this one because I didn't know there was a computer game of HeroQuest, and so I actually want to take a look at that. Okay, so you can still choose a barbarian and dwarf and the elf and the wizard, right? Okay, so that was the game. I don't know what to say. Anyway, the board game was amazing. Advanced HeroQuest was a revisit and expanded version of the HeroQuest game. The basic concept is the game 4 heroes venture to a dungeon to fight monsters and gain treasures, but the rules are more detailed and complex. Yeah, when you come to Advanced HeroQuest, I actually never saw that. I never even knew that existed until recently. So tell me what you think in the comments. How did you like Advanced HeroQuest compared to the original HeroQuest? Because I never played it. But as popular as HeroQuest was, it kind of faded out, and then you didn't hear much about it. And I only found this HeroQuest at a how do you call it? A market where you sell things in the street, a garage sale, and it kind of blew my mind to see it again after so many years. I had a lot of childhood memories playing this game. Especially with my best friend Fritz and his older brother called Oliver Mortensen. He sadly passed when we were only teenagers, but it still lives deeply in me when we played that game with him and my best friend Fritz Mortensen. Yeah, that memory will always stick with me. This game was so much fun, and if you've never tried it and you see it somewhere, try it out. It's a dungeon crawl, it's so fun to play. It's much more simple to play than Dungeons & Dragons. It is probably a good way to show your young ones an easy board game, which is the same genre as Dungeons & Dragons. Not so much the role-playing aspect, where you can role-play if you want, but playing a fantasy game with orcs and undead and heroes like a barbarian wizard and stuff like this. And yeah, it was a really cool game to play. And for me, that game is a 10 out of 10. It was a thumbs up for me totally. And I just felt it would be a cool episode to talk about, guys. Now I hope you had a lot of fun talking about it and seeing it. If you don't know it, I would recommend you try and play it if it crosses your path somewhere. If you do like HeroQuest, and if you like this episode, guys, be sure to give me a thumbs up. Support me, why not? Anyway, hope you had a good time, guys. This is all from the Nerd Hangout for this episode. See you soon, guys. Goodbye.